All right, guys. Good Erev Shabbos. We're hitting the ground running here. We don't have that much time, but we figure, or at least I figure, maybe we can make one convert before Shabbat. You never know. Yo, 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 what's up? Saying hi to my friends here on, it's a shame. When I upload these videos on YouTube, you're not able to see the chat. But there's chatting going on. There's in the original video on TikTok, if you ever catch this live, which it is live right now, right, but when I upload it, you may be watching it after I uploaded it on YouTube. You don't see the people speaking, like the little boxes, for whatever reason. So it looks like I'm speaking to some heavenly voice, but there's people on my live, and for some reason I'm limited to 4 people, although I've been on lives and there's like 8 people. I haven't figured that out yet. All right, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Shabbat Shalom. And now I'm responding to comments, which don't show up here either. I got to figure that out. But for now, just keep making content. All right, guys, let's do it. Judaism is better. Prove me wrong. The only way to do that really is with some other belief system. Yeah. Or from no belief system at all, i.e. from an atheistical perspective. So we do this, heck, it's been almost every day. I guess we skipped for most of Hol HaMoed. But yeah, it's been fun. Catholic Zoomer. I don't speak to Catholic individuals much. Welcome, Catholic.
Hello. Can you publicly apologize for killing Jesus Christ on behalf of your people?
I don't think there's evidence that we killed Jesus. That's the thing, outside of the New Testament. So
no, the Pharisees were Jewish and they clearly wanted Jesus dead. So can you apologize on behalf of your people?
Okay. Well, so the Crusaders were Christian. Will you apologize?
We're not talking about the Crusaders. We're talking about Jesus' death.
No, hold on one second. The Crusaders were Christian. Will you apologize in behalf of what the Crusaders did to Jews and Muslims?
No, because I support them for that.
Okay, so then I don't support anyone who was involved in killing Jesus. So in behalf, right, of the Jewish people, I apologize for the death of Jesus.
Okay, thank you so much. That's all I was here for. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a shocking thing. There's this idea that it was a good thing that Jesus died is I don't think in line with the Torah message. No, I don't believe in Jesus, but I think the guy was consistent, even though he was bigoted and hateful. So, but that doesn't mean we have to compromise our values and in some way also not do the right thing when given the opportunity.
Yo, what's up, Rabbi? How are you?
Hi, how's it going?
I'm well, thank you. So I just wanted to ask, I mean, I don't really know that much about Judaism, so I guess I just wanted to ask some questions about it, just to learn.
Go ahead.
So what's the process like of becoming a rabbi?
A rabbi? Well,
Yeah.
But nowadays, the status of rabbi is only ceremonial. The real title of rabbi disappeared in the 4th century of the Common Era. There was a process called smicha, going all the way back to Moses, and that's at least what's taught in Judaism. And this authority to judge was passed down from teacher to student all the way through different courts. They had different names. They were known as the Shoftim, the Zakanim, the Elders, the Anshe Knesset Gedolah, and eventually they were known as the Sanhedrin. So the procedure nowadays is that assuming you have somewhat of a decent Jewish education, you enter a rabbinical program or you enter your yeshiva that will in some way introduce you to some rabbinical program. You take a few tests and then you could either get ordination as a rabbi in general, in general Jewish law. This is what occurs in places like Yeshiva University, I think near Israel, and the more prestigious institutions. These guys actually make the big money in the Jewish world. Or you could become a rabbi on a specific area of Jewish law, or a specific section, let's say. Like, I don't know how good your Hebrew is, but in Isser V'Heter is one. You could get smicha or ordination on Shabbat, on the laws of the Sabbath, on Nidah. So that's pretty, I think that covers everything, at least in the Orthodox world.
Okay. Yeah. No, I know absolutely zero Hebrew. But
You can become Jewish if you like.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my other question because I heard a long time ago, and then someone told me that this isn't true. So I guess I just kind of want clarification. Someone said to me that only men can convert to Judaism and women cannot convert. Is that true? Or
That would be so so horrible if that was the case, right?
Mm,
I mean, one, it would make no sense. I mean, typically
yeah,
the guys run the show. Like, why would they limit themselves in that area? So like, you figure it'd be the opposite. The truth is, it's probably easier for a woman to convert than a guy to convert.
really?
Yes, well, I mean, what do you think? The guys who run the courts probably want to make it more easier for Jewish men to get married. The average
Yeah,
Jewish
right.
guy, unfortunately, I'll tell you, the average Jewish guy is not attracted to the average Jewish girl. Yeah, that's the way it
Mm,
is. And so, if you bring women from the outside who look a little more exotic, who are, I don't know, less jappy or whatever, then they'll get married quick. But no, in Judaism, uh, males and females could convert. Yes.
really? Okay. So, um, I see. I see. I thought though that it was something like your Jewishness comes from like your mother, your maternal side of the family. Is that like
Yeah, so that is according to Jewish law. What makes you legally an Israelite is
Mhm.
your mother's lineage. What makes you or what determines what tribe you belong to, that's your father's lineage. But that doesn't mean that there's any religiosity tied to that. That means you can be an
Okay.
Israelite and not be important to God in any way, not in any covenant with God. So it doesn't reach the religious aspect of the Jewish people. There's an ethnic component and there's a religious component. Some people say that we are an ethno religion. That's not true. There's an ethnic portion to the Jewish people, but it doesn't mix with the religious. That means you could be fully
Mm,
ethnically Jewish and not religiously Jewish at all, or important to God, or in
right.
a covenant with God at all. And you could have a no pedigree going back to Abraham and be fully Jewish and important to God and in a covenant and yeah, head and shoulders over some guy with a prestigious pedigree who doesn't believe or practice.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, thank you very much. I really like that answer because people have said to me before, "Oh, it's an ethno religion," and I mean, like, what does that even like? That doesn't make a lot of sense, you know. But what you just described does make sense.
Yeah,
So,
well, the ethno religion thing does make sense, but I mean, it sounds a bit bigoted. Like, how
Mhm.
can ethnicity or even race come into play with religiosity? I mean, what kind of God are we worshiping here? Like a God who cares?
Right, right. A god who, yeah, only cares about one ethnicity or something like that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, Interesting. Okay. What else? What other questions do I have? Um, um,
So, what state do you live in?
I live in New England.
Oh, interesting. Interesting
Yeah.
place to be. Okay. Yeah, I'm in South Florida.
Okay, cool, cool. Yeah, I lived in Tampa before as well.
All right. I'm in
Uh,
Fort Lauderdale.
yeah. Okay, I mean, I can't come up with any other questions on the top of my head right now. I mean,
If anything, just come back up. Okay.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, you have a good one.
Okay. You too. Be well.
Thank you.
So, guys, for those who missed it, we started off the show. It wasn't the norm. I mean, he seems somewhat of a bigoted guy just because he made some sort of statement that he was glad that the Christians massacred who they did during the Crusades. Fine, and I'm not even talking about the Muslims here because they were fighting back, but I'm specifically talking about the smaller groups, like the Jews in particular, that were massacred by the Crusaders. But anyways, he wanted me to apologize for killing Jesus. So I don't take credit for killing Jesus. I don't think the Jews should take credit for killing Jesus. However, if that's what they believe, I'm not convinced that Jesus deserved the death penalty at all. And if it was true, and we can't really prove this, that the Jews actually killed Jesus, we can't really verify what the New Testament says regarding that case. We should be ashamed of it. Yeah. So this is why I said it. Like, if that was the case, then I do apologize. And yeah, like we shouldn't stoop down to people's level just because they don't want to apologize because of their unethical pride or immoral pride, it doesn't mean that Jews have to lower themselves to that. And not just apologize for that. I think Jews should apologize for any, not that we claim these individuals, but for Kabbalists who make no distinction between secular Jews and religious Jews. That means if you really believe that there's no distinction made between Jews, then that forces us to apologize for a lot of things that we don't agree with. From communism, liberalism, queer theory, all these things are spearheaded by, unfortunately, irreligious Jews. And it's hard to deny it. So it's a shame that religious people end up suffering for the sins of others or because of the sins of others. So it hasn't changed. However, if you do make a distinction between religious Jew and secular Jew, then we could say, no, anyone who doesn't keep Torah is not Jewish. That's it. And that's really how it should be taught. Okay. Are you ashamed of Israel being, no, well, not necessarily, because I'm not a religious Zionist. And also, I don't support the Palestinians. So why would I be ashamed of Israel? And I support Israel, by the way. Okay, there's a lot of people just emoting here. Okay, you have 22 other states, Arab, go somewhere else. Okay, fine. Anyways, yeah, no, I see Kahanas here. Come on, Rabbi, what do you mean? I mean, I support the state of Israel, I just don't support it from a religious perspective. As a matter of fact, I see your name is Kahanas. I mean, Meir Kahana didn't really support it from a religious perspective either, and he didn't really identify as a religious Zionist. He saw the potential of what Israel could become if they started keeping Torah laws, right? But I mean, he didn't support the state as it existed, at least not from a religious perspective. Okay, how can you claim to have even a semblance of morality? What are you talking about? This is not a political show. We're talking about religion here. Oh, someone is saying that, yes, he did. Are they saying that Meir Kahana identified as a religious Zionist? No, he did not. Okay, all right. I guess I misunderstood. Kahanist, I'm sorry. Okay. The Kahanist, well, there's someone here, for people who don't know, who can't read the comments, there's someone with the handle Kahanist, and I'm having a conversation with him. Okay. He was a rabbi. Yes, he was a rabbi. Michael, what's his name? His real English name was Michael Cohen. And I think when he moved to Israel, he became, his Hebrew name was Meir Kahana. Let's see. Hello, I want to convert and I have trouble grasping the concept of hell and purgatory. Well, those aren't prerequisites. Those aren't requirements to convert to Judaism. You don't have to believe in hell and purgatory. He was the best rabbi to ever walk on the planet. All right, he was a good guy. I'm not saying the best rabbi. I don't know if I would agree with that. His strength wasn't in religion. I mean, he clearly was a Talmud Chacham, but he wasn't known for his Torah studies. Although there were online, like I said, I was the admin for kahana.org for 5 years. So, I mean, I was involved in the organization. And I had all his articles, because that website, I don't even think it's up anymore, had every one of his articles, which are like thousands of them. I mean, it's okay. I mean, it's, yeah. All right, let's see. But let's not make this about Israel. There's enough TikToks that talk about that topic. Let's make this about religion, which we don't have a lot of TikToks or shows. That there aren't many live shows where someone could call in and argue with the rabbi, challenge the rabbi. But this one, would conceptions such as a Trinity ever emerge without the influence of Greek philosophy? I mentioned something last night on my live on why Christians support the Trinity. And I don't attack Christians for supporting the Trinity. I don't believe in the Trinity. I think it's foolish. I just don't think it's idolatrous nor heretical to espouse such a belief. But the reason they do believe in it is not because of logic, which is really what people argue with them with. Like, it's illogical. And they'll argue from every perspective except for the main reason that Christians support the Trinity. And that is because of the ambiguous notions of the complex unity of God that appears in their Bible, in the New Testament. So they're just being true to their text, and they're just trying to make sense out of it, to the point that they call it the mystery of the Trinity, which I think is somewhat honorable, right? Many of them will go on a ledge and try to justify it from a logical perspective, but they should just say, look, we have to tolerate this notion because there's some ambiguous statements in the Torah, not in the Torah, I'm sorry, in the New Testament, that may lead one to believe that there might be three in one, or however you want to break it up. I know the UPC breaks it up differently. I'm not a Christian. This is just me commenting on why Christians believe what they believe. I know something about Christianity, so take it for what it's worth. Do you think it is a cop-out to say you don't have to believe in God to be Jewish? There's a misunderstanding with what the term Jew means nowadays. Well, guys, like the show, and the more you like it, the more people will hop on. So like the show and follow the host. Like the show and follow the host. There's a misconception that Judaism means that because you're Jewish, you're in some way part of the chosen people, or you're special to God. Those are how dummies teach religion nowadays, right? That whether it's Muslim, Christian, or Jewish, they think like, oh, well, Jewish means by definition special to God. Not true. That's the ethnic component. That just means that you're an ethnic Israelite. So truly a religious Jew from God's perspective is only one who believes in God. Secular Jews are not Jewish in God's eyes. That I believe fully, and I believe that the Torah endorses this idea. However, we follow what's called halakha, Jewish law. So according to Jewish law, which is essentially civil law of biblical times that we in some way appropriate into modern day Jewish life, that established checks and balances of who we adjudicate by the 613 laws, what makes them liable for the punishments of those laws. And the rabbis decided that if you have a Jewish mother, you're liable to be punished by the court for breaking laws that appear in the Torah. That's all it means. It doesn't mean that you're special to God. It doesn't mean that you're part of the chosen people. Nonsense. Only because you happen to have a Jewish mother. If you happen to have a Jewish mother and you don't keep Torah and you don't believe in God, you're not Israel. You're, from a religious perspective, and any perspective that it should matter to a non-Jew, you're not Israel. So the answer is not as simple as many people expect. Like, oh, you have a Jewish mother, let me give you a hug because you're part of God's chosen people. Let me give you $1 because those who bless you will also be blessed. This stuff doesn't apply. It doesn't apply to secular Jews. If anything, they're a stain on the world, because unless they start identifying as not Jewish. Because when the average Gentile, let's say, cannot distinguish a religious Jew from a secular Jew. So secular Jews have horrible ideas, right? Some are great people, but the vast majority of them have the worst ideas from every destructive ism out there, from communism, liberalism, socialism, feminism, queer theory, all predominantly secular Jews running these movements. When the people of the world, when they fight back, when they lash back, they typically lash back at people who look Jewish. And people who look Jewish, who practice Judaism, look Jewish means in terms of garb, but people who don't drive on the Sabbath, who act religiously Jewish, are typically on the right. They support biblical values. We end up suffering for the bad decisions made by irreligious Jews. Okay, let's see. Let's do it. I find Mormons interesting since they consider themselves Christian but do not believe in the Trinity. Look, I don't believe in the Trinity, okay? But this idea that as long as you could disagree with something, it makes you cool, right? As long as you have something to say. And this is what I think many Muslims fall into, who don't know how to argue from any other perspective, or even how Jews argue. There's some Jews who don't know how to argue. The only way they know how to argue with you is regarding Israel, the state of Israel, and they'll know Jewish history, at least from 1850 on, like the back of their hand. But regarding religion, they don't know what to say. So the average Muslim, let's say, when they attack Christians, and the same thing with Jews, the average Jew who knows nothing about Christianity or Judaism would just make fun of Christians because they believe in a Trinity. And that has to be the dumbest reason to dislike somebody. Especially when people say, they're honest enough to say, for themselves, what they actually believe. No, they believe only in one God, but that God is made up of three persons. Okay, they're saying that, and they're not denying it because that's what their book says. There's a lot of things that Jews also stand by because the Torah says it, and we can't really understand it, but it's there. It's got to be the stupidest reason to separate yourself from others by, all right? Only because God. I mean, someone believes that in the oneness of God, there's some sort of partnership. Who cares? I mean, see, who cares? Do you think it's going to change how you keep one law? All right, so someone's asking me if I'm Orthodox. Yeah, I mean, I'm Orthodox. I don't believe in the New Testament or Jesus at all. I'm just telling you, from a rational perspective, it's silly. But it says, why do you have other than faith? I don't know what that means. Rabbi Asher, can you explain Kabbalah? I have informed myself of their practice of chanting Yud Ke Vav Ke. I'm not familiar with Kabbalists chanting God's name. I've never heard of that. Okay, talk about the Talmud. What do you want to know? What do you want to know? So the Talmud is made up of two books. There's the Gemara and then there's the Mishnah. I guess the other way around. The Mishnah first, Gemara second. The Mishnah is what we really call oral law, the rulings of the court, and the Gemara, it was written much later as a commentary to the Mishnah. That's it. That's what the Talmud is. The bulk of it is somewhat disposable. The only binding portions of the Talmud deal with halacha, like what you do, halacha l'maseh, not what you believe. It doesn't deal with metaphysics. It does mention a lot of metaphysics and beliefs, but the only portions that one's required to do are the portions that are legal, that are considered like final rulings of the court. Why do Orthodox men sway back and forth when they pray? Who the hell knows? There's no one truly knows. There's no law for this. It's just become like a custom. It's called shuckling, I believe. That's what they call it when they're going like this. You know, as a matter of fact, there's Muslims that do it also. Like from a long time ago. I mean, it's not such a new thing. You don't think Jews can be secular? No, Jews could be secular. I'm just saying that from God's perspective, from a religious perspective, they're not really Jews. Ethnically, they're Jewish to us, because anything could technically be an ethnicity, right? Only because you happen to be born of a Jewish mother doesn't mean you're special to God at all if your behavior is not intact or correctly intact. Okay, is it okay to marry a 3.5-year-old in your religion? Is it okay? Here's me being painfully honest. There's a medrash, but like midrashim are like folklore and legend. No one takes them completely seriously. Guys, follow the show like the host. Follow the show like the host. It says that Isaac, when he married Rebecca, she may have been either 9. I think one medrash says 9. Another medrash may say that she was 3. But it's a tale. It's not. Is there a limit on? According to halacha, one can only consummate a marriage with a woman who's able to bear children, right? However, there's arranged marriages, and because in Judaism it's a two-part marriage. There's betrothal, and then there's what's called kiddushin. It's nesuin and erusin. So one portion of it occurs in the beginning, and traditionally there was like sometimes a 2-year gap. Now it's done all on the same day. And then there's a second portion. So, I mean, the Rambam specifically says that one should in any way consummate the marriage with a minor, right? I mean, he didn't use the word minor because what's a minor back then? But it wouldn't be foreign. And this happened in Europe, that 14 years old, kids that were 14 years old would marry each other, or even possibly 13 years old. So no, there's no child brides in Judaism. I mean, like if that's your answer. But I'm just trying to be honest with whatever I could give you. Okay, the Gilgamesh story is almost the same as a Noah and an ark. So what does that mean? And it's not the Gilgamesh story. I mean, the Epic of Gilgamesh just mentions a portion of it, right? I mean, it's a whole epic, right? Only because there's a flood doesn't mean that it's identical, but it doesn't matter because our religion doesn't stand or fall on the basis of the Noah story. Okay, if anything, that adds credibility that this flood actually happened. How does someone join what? Judaism? You have to convert formally. Go to your local synagogue. And this is somewhat of a challenge for everyone listening. Guys, like the show, follow the host. Like the show and follow the host. Tonight is Shabbat, right? But tonight, too many people don't go to synagogue. The men will go, the women typically don't go. Tomorrow, I encourage you guys, right? Power move. I mean, I want you guys to flex on this one. Go to your local synagogue, either Orthodox or even conservative. Reform, just stay away. Show up around 9:45. Dress to impress, right? Hide your phone. Park 2 blocks down. Try to bring your own kippah, but if not, they'll have a box there, or ask, where are the kippot? And if you're a man, sit in the men's section. If you're a woman, sit in the women's section. Don't shake hands if you're a woman with the opposite sex, vice versa. Orthodox Jews don't do that. Conservative Jews don't care, I don't think. And give it a try. And if they ask you, are you Jewish? Say, look, I'm not Jewish, and I'm just looking into it, and I think it's very interesting. And yeah, and I'm pretty sure they'll be okay with you staying. That'll be such a power move if you came back on Monday, let's say, when we do this show again, maybe even Sunday, and tell us all about it. Yeah, 9:45 a.m. 9:45 a.m. So someone's asking if I'm against reform. I am against reform. Can I go to the synagogue if I'm not Jewish? Yes, that's what I'm saying. This is for non-Jews, right? For sure. How come women don't wear the kippah? Well, married women do. Married women cover their hair in Judaism. Really, according to Jewish law, I guess people don't practice as much, but all women are supposed to cover their hair. It says in Almana, Panuya, Garusha. That means a widow, a young woman, and even a divorcee has to cover her hair. Yeah, nowadays they changed it. It's not changed. It's still the law, but whatever. People have to learn how to keep laws the way it is. Okay, you're full of it. Hashem accepts all. Accepts all what? Accepts all what? Oh, you mean reform? I mean, reform doesn't believe in keeping laws, right? It's completely optional. So I don't know how Hashem could accept that when he kicked the Jews out of Israel for much less. What is the difference between the children of Israel and Jews? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Nowadays, colloquially. Can I go without the clothes like kippah, suit, and hat? No, of course you don't have to wear a hat. That's only like if you belong to a certain group in Judaism, right? If you're Litvish, then you can wear like a borsalino or Chabad. They also wear borsalinos. Yeah, don't just look decent. You gotta wear a hat to go to synagogue. Let's see. Shalom Aleichem. Ofek. Okay. Can I go with, okay, what is the difference? All right. What's your interpretation of Exodus 12:48? Does the Gar become a citizen or an Israelite? So the Ger Hagar, which is the stranger that sojourns, he becomes an Israelite, right? That's just why God makes some distinction when he says, and he spoke to the children of Israel. I mean, he's not talking about, Israel, and then he later talks to converts. A Ger Hagar is understood to be a convert because there's different type of gerim in the Torah. A ger toshav is someone you give like nevela to, and that's what we call like a noahide nowadays. I understand the Trinity, but I can't explain it with logic. I'm just saying it's something. That's fine. It doesn't matter. This is just accepted. It's not proven. Da-da-da. Okay. So you limit God's power. Fair enough. I understand it can. I don't know what that means. Recommend reading. Okay. What book do I recommend in reading for an introduction of Judaism? The 9 questions people ask about Judaism. You could get this book on Amazon probably for a few bucks used. It's by Dennis Prager and Rabbi Joseph Telushkin. Most people recommend, I don't really recommend this book. It's called To Be a Jew. It's written by Chaim Donen. That's probably the most popular guide. You could already get it. You could also get it for a few bucks online. Okay, I don't think it's necessary for salvation. Okay, you guys are arguing amongst yourselves here. Recommend reading. Okay, we got that, guys. Keep on liking the show. Maybe we'll get, the truth is, I think we have an hour. All right, let me see what time Shabbat comes in today. Shout out to the website that I always use to find out my Zmanim. It's called myzmanim.com. Right? Zmanim is, you have my, MYZMANIM. There it'll tell you what time Shabbat enters. So candle lighting today in South Florida, it is 7:25, which means you have around 18 minutes after that to do what you got to do. It's really a little more. All right, we have a guest. Let's see what we got. Wisdom song. Someone asked the question, Jews believe in the Messiah? Yeah. Not Jesus, but yeah. Welcome, Wisdom song.
Hey, how are you?
Hi, I'm good.
Hey, I have a question. I was discussing the Bible this morning with someone of a different faith, and they pointed out a contradiction to me, and I was surprised because I didn't think that the Torah had any contradictions. And can you explain it? It's a very small one, but I just need I just needed something to tell her for the future.
Yeah. Okay.
So it specifically comes in Exodus where God is revealing the Tetragrammaton to Moses on the mountain, and he specifically says that he had not revealed that to Abraham, that he had called himself El Shaddai. But then in Genesis, it is written where Abraham says that he had the vision. It is written that I had a vision of, and it says Tetragrammaton. And so she's saying that even if, because I tried to explain it, that those were just different aspects, that he hadn't revealed his true aspect. And she said that that wasn't sufficient because it should not have been written as Tetragrammaton in Genesis.
Wait a minute. So you're saying in Exodus it says that that's the first part or the first time he ever revealed himself with that name?
Yes.
I mean, is that what you're saying?
That's yes.
So you're talking about the burning bush.
Yes.
But let's look it up, because I'm curious. So Exodus what?
Oh, I don't have it pulled up right with me.
All right, so the burning bush. So let's try burning bush.
Yeah.
Let's do Rabbi Google. So, interesting. You type in burning bush and there's nothing biblical about it. Okay, Exodus.
Oh, hey, it's 6:3.
3:7, no? The burning bush? Oh, I mean, if it's okay, so it's not the burning bush. Okay, so it's 6:3.
It's 6:3. Sorry.
But my name. Let's look at the Hebrew. See if it says the Lord. Another shout out to these websites that I use. I use Mechon Mamre for my Hebrew and even Mishneh Torah, which is the Matthew version. 6:3. I mean, there are contradictions in the Bible. It's not. Okay. Yeah. So Yud He Vav He is what appears in 6. Now let's go to Genesis.
Yes.
So it's Exodus what?
It was the vision, Abraham. Hold on. It's where specifically he said, I mean, even if you go like when I just type in Abraham in the search, like Genesis 12:1 specifically has it, Genesis 24.
Wow. 1. Yeah, but it doesn't say that he told Abraham that's what his name. At least in this one. So let's go on the next one because it says Vayomer Adonai El Avram. So it says that like the 4-letter name of God said to Abraham, but it doesn't say that he said it. I mean, this is written after the fact. So what's the second?
Right. So okay, so good. So then essentially, he didn't necessarily reveal that name to Abraham, but the person that was physically writing the Bible already knew that name, and so they just used that name in its place, right?
I'd like to look at other examples, but everybody knows that there's many times in the Torah that it'll talk about this in the past tense. It'll say, and this place still exists today. It'll say, or these people are still there today, saying that for sure this was written way after the actual event, and for sure after the Exodus story. So only because the book of Abraham only because the book of Genesis appears before the book of Exodus, the book of Genesis was probably the last book written, because on Mount Sinai we didn't receive the book of Genesis. The book of Genesis is a book of tradition that came only later on. I mean, that's what the narrative teaches, right? Because on Mount Sinai, God only gave us laws, and there aren't real laws in the book of Genesis outside of be fruitful, multiply, and circumcision.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't see it as a contradiction, and I think it's pretty clear.
Okay. Yeah, that was the only one that she had, and that's kind of how I'd explained it to her, but I think you gave it a bit more depth, especially with like that is a good distinction, that he didn't say that he told him to call him with that name, so that, I think that he said, I think the actual quote was tetragram. I had a vision of tetragrammaton. I think that was something along those lines.
I mean, I could Google it
And
see if
and I
did,
wish I still had it pulled up, that exact
did
verse.
Abraham know God by the tetragrammaton? Again, I mean, this doesn't make or break, our religion or anything.
No.
Okay. Okay, so here's more sources. It says there's no denying the fact that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were aware of God's name. So it's giving Genesis chapter 15, verse 7. So let's look that up. Genesis chapter 15, verse 7. Okay, all right. So this one's more clear. Okay, so it says Vayomar Alav Ani Adonai, right? So it's, I mean, like he specifically says I am, and it says the four-letter name of God. I mean, I am like the Yud Hey Vav Hey. Yeah, I mean, he says so. That's yeah. I mean, it could be a contradiction. Yeah. Again, that doesn't. I mean, this is not what my premise of being religious is built on. I'm not convinced that the Torah, or what we call the Torah, was in some way written by God. I believe the commandments were written by God. That's what the Torah says. The instructions came through Moses, right? And then they were written down, but they came from God. The text, the narrative, I don't believe is written by God. I mean, why? Like, where does the Torah say that on Mount Sinai, God gave us the narrative to the Genesis story, or the narrative? I mean, this is tradition of the patriarchs, tradition of the founding fathers of the religion. The thing is, Christians view this like they view anything else they call divinely inspired. Like, this is actually God wrote this. I mean, Jews don't have to believe that. Jews have to believe that the Torah is divine, meaning the commandments. Well, the word Torah means commandments. It doesn't necessarily mean the 5 books of Moses. Nowadays, people, encompass all the 5 books of Moses in the Torah. Torah literally means the commandments within the Torah. So that's what makes our religion special, not the narrative, right? I mean, there's copyist errors. There's different versions of the Bible. It's a trivial point, in my opinion.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I just wanted to get your perspective on that. So
yeah.
I
Stay
appreciate
strong.
it.
I mean, stay strong and don't give
up.
Sure. Yeah.
Have a good
I
day.
know exact verse that we're talking about, because Itachi asked me same question.
Yeah, that's who it was.
Yeah, it's Exodus 6:3 and Genesis 22:14.
Yeah, but I'm looking at Genesis chapter 15.
No. Go to 6:3. It says that I appeared to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob as El Shaddai, but I did not reveal myself to them as Adonai. It clearly states that in 6:3.
Are you sure? I mean,
And then in 22:14, Abraham names the place Adonai Yevareh. Sorry, Adonai Yerah.
Okay.
So
so Exodus chapter 6, verse 3.
Yeah.
Okay. That's not what it says. Yeah.
It's not let them know myself, right?
Okay.
I'm looking at Hebrew there.
Okay.
right?
It says by El Shaddai.
And then, they did not know me as Adonai.
Okay, so Shmi Adonai Lo. So the argument is then, how's it that they didn't know him by that name? All right, but in chapter 15 of Genesis, it says that at least according to the text, he did use that name.
Correct. Multiple places in Genesis they do use that name. Like they name the locations using the name of Adonai. All right, so that's the question that they have. And when I went looking for it, the only answers I find are Kabbalistic answers, which suck. All right. But to me, that means that the theory of the scribes makes sense then. That's just scribes swapping words because they didn't know these nuances.
Here, look. The truth is that the narrative in the Torah is not divine. Okay, I mean, that's the simple answer. That's what the Torah says. The Torah says that only the revelation of Mount Sinai is the message from God. The book of Genesis didn't fall down from heaven.
That's what I mean. That the scribes who wrote down Genesis basically missed those spots, right?
Yeah, see, the thing is, well, these atheists attack Jews from a Christian perspective. Only Christians make no distinction between the book of James and the book of Acts. I mean, they think it all fell down from heaven. That's not the Jewish perspective, right?
No, Acts is not atheist. Acts is very smart. She's a Muslim lady. She's very intelligent. And she wasn't arguing from that faith. She was asking like genuine question.
Yeah, but the average atheist, I mean, in some way tried to build this straw man argument, which is not a straw man argument towards a Christian, but it is towards a Jew. Truth be told, there's some Kabbalistic Jews who believe some weird things, and they also believe that the Torah fell down from heaven, and they'll try to go out on a limb to justify even, these portions that are, they're there because they give us content and chronology, right? But that's all, right? I mean, it's not... if someone even believed in demons, why would they try to expel a demon? The narrative in Genesis, which I mean, a Christian will expel a demon with Psalms. This is all. It might be beautiful literature and it's important and it's holy in the sense that it's set apart. But the only word of God are the commandments. Those are the only words of God, and that's what the Torah says we received on Mount Sinai, and the transmission ended at the end of Deuteronomy. So I don't know why. It's because Jews also make a big deal. They're like, no, Moses wrote everything and we believe it in faith, and people like Toby Singer walk around saying that every Torah scroll is perfect. Guy, I mean, you're going to lose a lot of debates if you're going to present your religion in such a manner. Welcome,
I don't view it the same way also. I'm with you, Asher. I'm the rationalist, remember? So I know that the script we use in the Torah now is a Phoenician script, and even the spelling changed multiple times through the time. You can even date the text based on how the same words are spelled, because the vowels didn't exist until the times when the Maccabean times, and the Masoretics added nekudot. All these things are later developments. So obviously the text didn't appear the way that we view the text now. Only people who were I don't even know who you have to be to think that that's how it always looked, right? So if we accept that it was written differently, then why can't we accept that people rewriting them could have made mistakes and wrote wrong names for God and things like that, right?
Because you said that you said that that Genesis and the other books were not just handed down from God. So I guess my question would be, where are they handed down from? Or where did the narrative come from, if not from God?
Tradition.
So tradition. Okay, so then it's oral tradition.
I mean, it has to be. What other answer? Yeah, sure, oral tradition that was written down. I mean, to be true to the text, that's the only response you can give, unless you're trying to like live up to some creed. And there's many creeds in Judaism and in Christianity that says that we have to believe this and that, but they never help you in debates. Okay, what we're doing here, at least as Jews, we're treading new ground, and we're actually pioneers in this millennia, because we're proselytizing. That means we're in some way trying to package what we believe and explain it to someone else who these people are extremely inquisitive, which is a great thing because it's going to get us to get our priorities in order theologically. Because the average Jew will talk to a Christian like he's talking to another Jew. And Jews don't argue typically with themselves about religion. They sort of, I mean, if they're Orthodox, they pretty much believe the same thing for the most part. Okay, but now they get challenged by a Christian or a Muslim, and now they have to give a reasonable response, a logical response. And that's what we're trying to do here. So the trend that I'm trying to set is to get people to say that the only true word of God are the commandments in the 5 books of Moses. And it's on the basis of the individual moral training that appears in those commandments that our religion stands or falls. Now, those who are new to Judaism, who are not used to debating with people on TikTok or on YouTube, will go out on a ledge and even try to justify statements in the Talmud as absolutely true and infallible. Of course, these guys refuse to debate, right? But someone like myself who does debate, I don't have that luxury. Okay, I mean, I have to whittle it down to at least what the Torah says. Only the commandments in the Torah are the word of God. Not even the books of the prophets are the word of God. They're there to bring you back to the word of God. The prophets are there to bring you back to the Torah. The writings are there to bring you back to the Torah, right? But they're not the word of God. They support the word of God. They're holy because the word holy in Judaism doesn't mean from God. It just means set apart. That's all it means. That they're sanctioned as worthy of studying by our judges. That's all it means. So if someone comes and says, oh, well, the Epic of Gilgamesh mentions a flood, that shows that you appropriated that myth. Who cares? Our religion does not stand or fall on narrative, right? It stands and falls if the laws in that book doesn't make your life and your society better. And it's the main book that has civilized this planet. And this is why I want people, to yell from the mountaintops on why they're religions. On the reason they remain religious, right? I mean, not something stupid like I believe the Torah is perfect and you're inferior because you believe in the Trinity. Like these stupid arguments. I mean, guys, I mean, just square
Trinity is stupid.
yourselves away. Huh?
I said Trinity is stupid. Let's but still.
I don't think it's still. I mean, I think it's okay.
It's illogical. Okay.
Yeah, right, but there's a lot of things that we believe that are also illogical. Like we're dealing with religious here, like with religion. One reason, and I mentioned this last time, that I give. Look, the reason Christians believe in the Trinity, it's not because it's logical to them. It's because they have this concept that we also have to a certain extent of sola scriptura. And if their Bible says something, they have to in some way make sense out of it. And the Trinity is making sense of the ambiguous statements that appear in their Bible regarding the complexity of the unity of God. What are they supposed to do with it, right? I mean, I guess they could say, well, we're going to toss Paul out and John and James and just stick to the red letters that appear in the Gospels, which is more my perspective here. What they call red letters is what I call the commandments in the Torah, meaning just the source of our belief system. I would say the source of Christianity are the specific words of Jesus, not what Paul brought into the mix. And, they created the religion. The specific words of God for us are just the mitzvot that appear in the Torah. So if someone's out there and they're a publisher, what they should do is make a 5 books of Moses with all the commandments in red. That's it. Because this is the actual word of God, and everything else is there to support the word of God. So that itself would eliminate the need for counter missionaries. Because the reason these guys
Sorry, I think the problem with that is then where do you draw the line to say this is and this isn't, right? Because who's to say, well, then somebody can come to you and say, well, I don't believe this commandment's from God. I don't believe this one's from God. And it's a slippery slope. Like, where do you draw the line to say, I know exactly that this is from God, but not this, right? When you're looking at the text.
Like, for the most part, you can tell when Moses is prophesying in God's name or when Moses is telling you what he tells you to do. So that's the bigger debate, right? Well, I mean, I think that's what you're getting at, that sometimes Moses is saying it and Moses had the authority, but anything Moses brought to the table that wasn't told to him by God had the status of oral law because it was rabbinic. Moses was the head of the court. God said to establish a court of 70 elders, and Moses was that 71 member. He's what became as the Nasi, like the prince, or Nasi is like the president of the Sanhedrin.
Yeah.
So that would take further study, but for some reason, all these anchor Bible people who waste their time, with weird, stupid commentaries, have overlooked this part, because this is the only way to stay true to the text. If you're able, I make this argument all the time, that like when people say that the Torah commanded the Israelites to annihilate a certain people, women, children, I think it was the Midianites. If you read it, and this is the point Dennis Prager mentions in his Rational Bible, if you read it very accurately, it's not God that commanded it. God nowhere commanded it. There it said that Moses commanded it. So if we made a distinction, and I'm not even bringing what happens in the book of Samuel, because that's not in the Torah at all, right? And I mean, from that perspective, it seems that prophet is prophesying for God, but that's not the Torah. I mean, I don't have to justify that book. But even in the Torah, if we made a distinction between the commandments that Moses created and the commandments that God created, it would save face, right? I mean, I'm sure there was a reason for them doing what they did. I really wish it was written differently, because it'll make it easier for me as someone who tries to present this to inquisitive college kids. Okay, but this is stuff we have to deal with. I mean, to assume that the Bible couldn't have been written in a clearer fashion, in a more, I mean, maybe it was written to mainly right? People at that time.
I said it's who it's revealed to, right? You're giving it to the ancient people who are, so it's gonna be in their language. It's it's speaking to the person. So we can't take modern view on it and expect to always understand it exactly.
Right, and I think that it was more important that it was relevant to them back then than us today. I mean today, because nowadays we're riding the coattails of our ethical masters, right? We're walking down the path that they laid for us ethically. That means once they were convinced, then they got the ball rolling, and then we got Islam and Christianity that in some way finished the job, because they also brought goodness to the world, even though they appropriated our ethics. I mean, I can't deny that. Welcome for Jews.
Sorry, I was going to say, there's clear examples of what you were saying.
I'm confused what you're trying to do here, because I was just scrolling, and it appears that you're trying to say, first of all, Judaism is better. Why are you saying this? And what is the purpose of this whole talk? Because that's just not.
Are you Jewish?
Sorry, what'd you say?
Are you Jewish?
Yes, I am Jewish.
Are you proud to be Jewish?
I'm very proud to be Jewish, but I wouldn't post on TikTok that Judaism is better, because that can be insulting for people of other religions, as well as trying to say that anyone can convert when that's not really what we're about.
Okay, so just to get to the core of the issue, there's nothing in Jewish law that prohibits encouraging people to become Jewish. I know that Jews do that nowadays, but that's not what we teach. I'm pretty sure you're pro-Israel as well, and you have no issue correcting someone who has erroneous notions about the state of Israel, or the idea that Palestinians, because you're proselytizing either way, right?
What do you mean? I just don't understand why we're spreading hate for no reason.
Proselytizing.
Hold on, why is this hate? Spreading word of God is not hate.
Anybody on?
It depends on what you're trying to say. What is the purpose of this, and maybe make it more clear on a For You page. This is coming up on random people's feeds. They don't necessarily know what they're walking into, and it just sends the wrong message.
So I think it sends the best message. The average person doesn't know that you could become Jewish. What sends the wrong message is the idea that we're a closed people that don't give a crap about anybody else. If we let them know the truth, right,
so that's why
you could convert to Judaism if you wanted to. By the simple fact that we remain Jewish means that we think that we're on a better path than Christians and Muslims, or we'd become Christian or Muslim, right?
Sorry, what? Can you repeat that?
By the simple fact that you remain Jewish, religiously Jewish, right? You remain that, and you don't convert to Islam, Mormonism, or Christianity, means that you feel that you're on a better path, right? You don't think it's all morally relative, correct?
I think it's the best path for me. I'm not going to necessarily say it's the best path for someone else, because everyone has their place in the world.
So being an atheist, let's say, is morally comparable to being a religious Jew?
Yeah, I think someone can be perfectly moral and still be an atheist.
That's not the question, okay? Is your average atheist as moral as your average religious Jew? If you had to put your money on it.
No, I'm not
someone
God.
who commits himself. No, okay. Does someone who commits his or herself to adhering to some ethical, moral standard better than someone who doesn't? Typically, ethically.
I don't know. Possibly.
Of course they are.
How do you know?
Right.
Just because someone
All right, Asher, can I try?
They're not a good person.
Let me give you an example. I was born and grew up in Soviet Union, right? I'm a Russian Jew. I was born, grew up in Soviet Union until I was 18. Then I left when Soviet Union collapsed. I live in U.S. now. And I can tell you 100% that a fully atheist, secular country is a hell on earth. And it's infinitely worse than if people... I'm sorry, what?
A country, first of all, is not a person. If you want,
I'm talking about... Yes, that's the point.
That's a whole other issue.
That is the point. It's also would be nice if you were like, most Jews and let others talk and hear their answer to the end and then respond instead of interrupting. Because if you're not actively listening and actively talking, then you don't get my point from me at all, right? So what I was saying is when Judaism is a religion of a society, right? It teaches us how to be better together, not as individuals, but as a community. And by making it a better community, it's better community than the atheist community. That's what we're talking about.
Or a Christian
so you're
community,
saying that Judaism is better than being an atheist?
Yes.
So maybe write that on this little picture we have here so that we know that this is what this topic is about.
Oh, so you're okay with, in some way, thinking you're better than atheists, but not in any way thinking that you're...
I personally don't think that that's true. I don't like to say that I'm better than anyone, and I think that someone has the right to be labeled as an atheist and not be seen as a bad person.
But you're not a religious Jew, because the God of the Bible tells... well, you can't be, because the God of the Bible specifically tells you that you're on a better path, that if you behave a certain way, you're better than people who don't behave in that manner. You're saying that you don't even need ethical standards to be special.
Can you please quote where it says that so we can maybe clarify?
So God says that Israel will be his Am Segulah, his treasured people, only if they keep his commandments.
Yes.
And that goes for anyone. Only. That means people who don't
better.
Treasured people, Am Segulah, means that if Israel is special to God for keeping commandments, then another nation is not special to God if they don't even believe in God, or in some way they fight against the existence of those commandments, which is exactly what atheists do. Because an atheist is not an agnostic. An atheist will yell from the top of his lungs that God does not exist, right? I mean, they're saying that there is no God, not that they don't know. I'm sure in many areas in your life, you say that what's good for you is good for others. But for some reason, you've been brainwashed to think that Jews are not allowed to say that about their own religion, right? And this is why we keep on getting picked on, because you're ashamed essentially of being Jewish.
I am not ashamed of being Jewish. I just don't think that there's anything wrong with not being Jewish. And that should be, and if to say that we think that we're better and we believe that everyone should be Jewish is actually causing hate, because that's like, imagine being a Christian, you grew up Christian, you believe you're Christian, and then you see this. That's going to be upsetting, and I think that it's very...
I never said that everyone should be Jewish, okay? I mean, there's some people that I don't want to be Jewish, but I think that...
Judaism is better than what?
Well, let me ask you this. When Christians or Muslims tell you that you need to convert to their religion, do you think that they don't believe that their religion is better?
I don't like when they do that. That makes me upset. Why are they trying to convert me? And I ask them that.
For JewPage, I've got a question. Who kind of promoted you to being the TikTok Jewish gatekeeper to go into lives and tell people about the graphics. Why don't that's a problem? You're sticking your nose in. Keep to your own kind of lane and what you want to promote, and leave this live alone. Who promoted you to be the kind of person that goes into a TikTok live and says no?
No.
He accepted me into this and is asking
I like
me.
her.
No, you came in originally with a combative nature. I was listening down in the comments.
Yes, this
I
is my
like her
opinion.
question, by the way, because people are learning, right? The average person is there supporting it, thinking like, oh, it's true. Jews typically don't proselytize. They never heard that it's actually not prohibited, right? And it's actually a good thing. I mean, it says, look, there's a medrash that says, who's the hero of heroes? He who makes an enemy into a friend. The vast majority of Jewish TikToks are just there to argue the Israel-Palestine situation. That's all there is.
No, that's not true.
The vast majority of Jewish TikToks, that's all they do.
I
No,
do
the
it.
vast majority of Jewish TikToks actually are just showing their culture. I think we're on different sides of TikTok. I don't know how I got here, but I don't usually see Palestine-Israel videos on my page. I just see culture stuff.
But
and
isn't Judaism Jewish culture?
It can be.
Okay, so why can't we spread Jewish culture to people who don't have it?
Yeah.
You can, but why are we saying that it's better? Better than what? What?
Better than not being part of this culture.
When we see this.
Okay.
Following God and keeping His commandments is better than not doing it. What's the problem with that?
Okay, there's nothing wrong with you believing that. It's just that for the general population scrolling through TikTok and they see this, it's not going to look great for you guys, especially when they don't necessarily see an explanation because they're not willing to listen.
But they can come and ask questions and get the answers, and that's how they get engaged, right? You know how advertising works. That's how you engage people.
And I don't always agree with how things are advertised. It's sending a message, and I personally have received a lot of hate as a Jew, and I feel like by telling people that, hey, we think that our religion is better, like that's insulting to people. Why do we have to spread that idea?
Which idea is insulting? That God is better than no God?
I just want to say 4Jew page is 100% correct, and this is quite offensive what Rabbi.
All right, she's a dumb bitch. I mean, this Andrea is
this is the last person you want arguing here. Andrea runs like the most offensive channel.
Who are you?
Yeah.
Why are you not accepting of all Jews that you just had to cancel her off this live?
Have you ever seen her live? Have you ever seen Andrea's live? It's the most offensive live on this TikTok. She just yells over everybody and offends every person who's not Jewish on her live. What are you talking about? She runs the toxic hellhole of TikTok.
Wait, so where's this notion that we're supposed to like be nice or accept all Jews? I mean, look at George Soros.
No, we're not accepting all Jews. Yes, as a Jew, you have to love your fellow Jew. It literally says that in the Torah. So what are you saying?
Okay, so that's not what it says. V'afta l'orecha kamocha, what doesn't mean you have to love every Jew. That means you have to love every religious Jew, every Jew who keeps Torah. Okay,
that's this idea. True.
It is true. It's 100% true.
Once a Jew, always a Jew. It doesn't matter. Okay. If once you are a Jew, you can't be non-Jew.
So you don't know anything regarding halakha. The notion of kegoy, that someone who's mechalel Shabbat is considered kegoy, and Jews would never put other Jews, to unalive them if they were in some way compelled to love them. Okay, we have this notion called lekaret, that if a Jew behaves in a certain way, he's cut off from the Jewish people. Only because Chabad wants to teach the opposite because of Kabbalah doesn't speak for Judaism.
I'm not Chabad.
It makes it sound stupid. It makes it sound stupid to say that we're obligated to love someone because of DNA. Okay, like don't you think that statement makes people hate Jews more than a statement that says that Judaism is better?
I don't think that there's anything wrong with loving a certain person, and
nowhere
doesn't say anything about not loving people who aren't Jewish. It's just that we are vulnerable because we are a minority. So if we don't love each other and we don't stay strong with each other, we will end up being killed.
If a white person came on here and said you have an obligation as a white person to love every other white person, no matter how they behave.
White person is not an ethnicity.
No. Okay.
White person isn't even at this point, every white person comes from somewhere else. They all have different cultural backgrounds. So how are you using that?
If a Puerto Rican said you have an obligation to love every other Puerto Rican, would that be bigoted or not? No matter how that Puerto Rican behaved, of course it would sound bigoted. If a Nazi said it, oh my gosh, don't get stuck on first stage thinking. Okay, you're catching my drift. People think Jews are a race. If Jews feel that they have an obligation to love every other Jew, that's a bigoted statement. If anyone would utter a similar statement, they would probably be called a bigot. People are scared to correct Jewish people.
I have no issue with someone. I personally don't find it offensive for a Muslim to say that they have an obligation to love all Muslims. That does not offend me.
To them, every Muslim is a believing Muslim. A Muslim who doesn't practice the Quran is no longer Muslim. You're saying that you're Jewish by birth, that you have to love people because of DNA. That's a bigoted anti-Torah statement.
I don't agree with you. How is that anti-Torah?
Okay. Because the Torah separates the world not between who happens to have a Jewish mother and who doesn't, but who keeps commandments and who does, or who doesn't keep commandments. Okay.
I don't believe that the Torah says that. Where does it say that?
It specifically says that if you don't keep commandments, you'll be kicked out of the people of Israel. You'll be put to death.
Kares does not mean that we don't love them. Kares has to do with punishment that was used back in the day. It doesn't mean that that's applicable now.
So the Torah changes, right? Kares Chayav Misa. There's putting people to death. This notion that Jews are obligated to love other Jews is a very recent notion.
Do we put people to death now?
Because we don't have a Sanhedrin, okay? But it's still part of the halakha. That when we have a court, then that's what?
I think that a lot of the stuff that happened back then was because also based off of society and not just because of the Torah. It's because of that. That's what societal standards were at the time.
Are you sure that you're a religious Jew? Because religious Jews don't talk like that.
Sure. I grew up Orthodox. I went to a religious private school, and I have extensive knowledge on the Torah. I've read a lot of Mefarshim.
So you're an Orthodox Jew. Oh, all right. So you've read. Okay. Well, so I mentioned one perush that says that the Torah, in some way, changes. Right. That laws that were applicable back then are no longer applicable nowadays because times change.
Okay, so I can't quote the exact Rashi, but I read a Rashi, and there's many where this reference is used from Rashi himself that says that society is very relevant for practicing Jewish law, and depending on society, that could change what separate means, what kadoshim means, what it means to dress modestly, all changes based off of society.
There's some laws.
Rashi usually is a mystical side.
There's some laws that are tied to social norms.
Yes.
Guaranteed. Okay. Now, these are laws that don't appear in the Torah because the Torah doesn't tell you what sneot is.
First of all, do you believe in the oral Torah?
Yes, I believe in oral Torah.
Okay, so when we learn these oral Torah, okay, so Mefarshim are literally so important to understand the oral Torah. So Rashi would be extremely relevant in that sense.
No, that's not contradicting what I'm saying. I said there's rabbinic rulings that have to do with social norms. So something that's modest in one generation doesn't mean it's modest in another generation unless it's violating a specific principle. For example, a woman could never show the outline of her body no matter what generation she lives in because that's the halakha. Now, if you want to outlaw wigs in this generation and allow them in another one, being that wigs aren't even mentioned, that could be allowed. But to say that something in the Torah could change because because rabbis in our generation chose to do that, that's impossible. The notion,
we were talking about the killing thing. So what Torah commandment that doesn't change says that we have to kill someone who doesn't follow a certain Torah commandment?
What are you talking
about? You have to unalive somebody for Mechalel Shabbat. What are you talking about?
Where does it say that? Which law in the Torah?
Oh my God!
There's no way that you know. I mean, there's no way that you.
How can you not know this if you're claiming what you're claiming? It's in Leviticus.
Argument against me. Just tell me where the reference is and what.
You want me to look up the specific verse in Leviticus?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Hold on.
Analyze that and see what it's actually saying, and if it's actually saying.
Oh, analyze it. So now you're gonna analyze it.
Yeah. No, this is not. I mean, there's no way that you grew up. I mean, well, you didn't go to like Beis Yaakov or something. I mean, you probably grew up Reform. I'm just telling you. I mean,
grew up Reform. I went.
All right, so you don't know Judaism then, okay? And like being Mechalel Shabbat is not the only reason people are put to death, okay? I mean, a man lying with a man as he would with a woman is also
mean that it's actually a law that we kill people when they don't follow the Torah.
Because there's no Sanhedrin nowadays. If there was a Sanhedrin,
so you're telling me if
absolutely.
there's Sanhedrin now, we would be killing people.
Absolutely. Right?
There is Mefarshim that would argue that.
Please show me one. Show me one. I would love to hear it.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Yeah, go ahead. She's not coming back. Yeah, but this lady didn't grow up religious.
Here, sorry, Asher, real quick. So, because I always bring receipts, I don't talk. Exodus 31:15. 6 days may work be done, but on the seventh day there shall be Shabbat of complete rest, holy day to God. Whoever does work on the Sabbath day shall be put to death.
Yeah, but she's saying that.
Is that what happened at that? Okay, what's the context? Is that
the context? Hold on. Exodus 31:15. The context is that if you violate Shabbat, you will be put to death. That's the clear text. That's the context. What more context would you want?
There's many other examples of people being put to death for reasons. It says that a man who sheds the blood of man by man shall his blood be shed. If someone commits murder, they're executed. I mean, I don't understand, like, how. I mean, you study. I mean, Parshat HaShavua. There's no way whether you study the parsha and you don't know that there's even there's many different types of death penalty too. I mean, the idea that the Torah changes. I mean, what is it? With the famous statement of the Hassam Sofer, Hadash Asur min Torah. That anything new is forbidden. I mean, from the Torah. I mean, to in some way say that the Torah, I mean, is like has changed in our generation, that we're doing things differently. That's forbidden. I mean, it's a principle in Orthodoxy. So I mean, you may have grown up in Orthodox.
Someone because they committed murder is what you were saying. And first of all, can you just remind me why we were so focused on the death penalty and what implications we were talking about?
No, because you said that only because something appears in the Torah doesn't mean that we have to keep it nowadays.
Yeah, but there's different ways of interpreting things, and what that means depends on the context.
All right.
So yeah, there are examples when the death penalty is relevant, but we don't do that now because we don't have a Sanhedrin. So there's an exception to many different things. So I'm confused how that's arguing with what I said.
So you went back to look for a Rashi or a Rambam or something to prove your point. Did you find one? Of course you didn't. I'm just telling you. I mean, I know Mefarshim also, and I wish, like, my life would be easier if I didn't have to keep a 2-day yontif. Okay.
First of all, I don't understand why you just try to take away my credibility as what I'm saying by trying to say that I didn't go to an Orthodox school when I did, and to say that I must have grown up Reform when I didn't. So first of all, that shouldn't have even be said here.
Because second of all, who goes to Orthodox schools don't feel they could speak in behalf of Orthodoxy when they don't know what they're talking about. You could say that you went, but you didn't pay attention.
You can't say that I don't know what I'm talking about just because I can't bring up a specific example right now.
Wrong. Wait, hold on. You're saying I'm wrong. I can't say you're wrong.
I didn't say that you're necessarily wrong. I'm just saying I don't like what you're doing here, and especially the vibes here is extremely toxic. The way you just, first of all, canceled someone from this live, and now you're putting me down for no reason. Are you even, what are you saying? What are you trying to do here?
There's history between Andrew and I.
You're the one who came in attacking, right? I mean, when you walk in, guns blazing, what do you expect to happen?
Who's blazing? What did you say?
You were attacking the host.
Come in, guns blazing means that you came in on the attack. You came in claiming that everything going on here is wrong, and the wording on top is wrong, and Judaism is not better, and all this.
Attacking its character, I said I personally do not agree with this ideology, and I wanted to know what's going on here. Because
so when you walk in aggressively, you're gonna get met aggressively, right?
So you're trying to say that he's allowed to? I mean, he can do whatever I want. He can criticize me all he wants. I just personally, I'm a little surprised by.
I mean, this is how human behavior works, right? If you want people to be nice to you, you should be nice to them. If you come in aggressive, people are going to be aggressive back to you. People reciprocate behavior.
I'm trying to understand the purpose of this live.
So let's focus back on the topic okay. I'm not telling people here that they have to convert to Judaism. The average person who comes on this show doesn't even know conversion is possible. Okay, that's the biggest service I do here. The average Muslim who's a convert to Islam has told me, many people, that they would have converted to Judaism if they knew it was possible, because Jews don't let them know the obvious, okay, which is what our law teaches. This is why we basically have to fight these people later on, whether it's in a political sphere, whether it's because we're walking down some street in France. Okay, I'm just being informative here. Now, every religious Orthodox Jew, huh?
Hello?
All right, fine. I took her off because there's too much. Hold on one
Wait
second. Okay. So, the average person, like I said, thinks that Jews are a closed club. Now, the average Orthodox religious Jew does feel their religion is superior. They just don't care enough about other people to share it. That's something different. The idea that people will hate you if you're more inclusive is stupid, okay? By the simple fact that Christians are coming here to convert me to Christianity, that shows me that they love me, okay? They care about me enough to want me in their religion. Who would hate you for that, right? If Jews did that, it would break down the walls of secrecy, right? You know, if you know how many Black Hebrew Israelites walk around thinking that in yeshivas that we're here plotting the control of the world, I'd be like, walk in.
Hey, don't reveal our secrets. We do plot that in yeshivas.
Walk in, have a seat, and listen for yourself. You're welcome to become Jewish. That breaks down the whole protocols of the elders of Zion. You know how these people are so stupid. I'm just telling you, it's so stupid, and I wish a more articulate rabbi could come up here and argue that position from a more educated perspective than just emoting. Like, it just looks wrong. Are you kidding me? People would love Jews more if Jews offered their religion. And people actually respect people who think that they belong to a superior system, right? Not that they're saying, because I never said Christianity is bad. I never said Islam is bad. I'm just saying Judaism is better. And I want a Christian to feel the same way, you know, about Christianity to an atheist or Mormon or any other system that's less ethical. Obviously, I mean, it's a beautiful thing. I mean, for someone to love what they're in so much, they want to encourage other people to have a piece of it also. But you have to be taught otherwise, because Jews are great in marketing, okay? We just don't market Judaism. So this idea that if you market anything, they're going to hate you, that has to be the stupidest understanding. If you control the streams of marketing, you control the output of what people actually hear, you know? So obviously, like, if you have a freaking jerk, you know, some Kabbalist here teaching that Judaism is superior, and at the same time, we're going to make it impossible for you to convert, and we don't want you to convert, that's a spit in the face. And that's what I see Chabad do every year when they put a menorah on top of their car and they drive around in non-Jewish neighborhoods. And when a non-Jew comes up and says, can I convert? No. So why are you showing it in my face? You know how stupid it is? I feel the same way if anyone walks around with an Israeli flag and some Christian says, you know, I love Israel so much that I want to join you. Okay, I won't drop Jesus, but I want to keep mitzvot, and I want to fight alongside you in the trenches in Israel. Can I join? No. You know, that's what causes like resentment. But these people are stupid. They're stupid. You have to be taught like this. Naturally, the average person wouldn't naturally come to this conclusion. Okay, and I challenge anyone to come up here and argue with me on this.
I think, Asher, what I've seen the most is the more non-religious people are, the more they're against the proselytizing and conversion, because it threatens their identity, right? Because
they're typically anti-American, and they're anti-Americans walking around. They hate when Americans say that America is great. America sucks nowadays, but America used to be great. Okay, they hate it, you know. They were like, we're no different than any other country in the world. It's a left-wing approach to everything, okay? The left-wing idea is that anything that exists deserves to die. That's it. You know, there's no beauty in leftism. And this is left-wing religion. You're not supposed to be proud. You're supposed to feel bad. And the only people who end up being proud are those who are harmful and those who will eventually control your life. If you don't impact the world, which is what we're trying to do now here, the world is going to impact you, and you have to be an idiot to see it any other way. Now, welcome, Psych Player.
How you doing, brother? You all right?
Mashallah.
Good. So just let me just get this straight. You don't believe anything of the New Testament, you just believe in the Old Testament, yeah?
I believe in the Torah, yeah.
You believe in just the Old Testament, not the New Testament?
Correct.
Is that yes or no? Sorry.
You're correct. Yes.
Okay.
Affirmative.
All right. So you don't believe that Jesus came down to basically save us from our sins? You don't believe in any of that?
No, I don't believe it.
Do you believe in Jesus?
I mean, I don't hate Jesus, but I don't think that.
Do you believe in Jesus?
Do I believe he existed?
Yeah.
No, I don't believe in Jesus. I mean, the way you're asking me, you're thinking like if I'm a follower of Jesus. No.
No. I'm just asking if you believe. Do you believe that there is such thing as a Jesus?
Did he walk the earth? I don't know. I mean, I'm agnostic on that point. I mean, I can't prove it either way.
So are you curious to be able to do your research and find out if it's true facts, the history behind it all?
Not really, because even if he did exist, why would that change anything? In my theology, at least.
If he existed, then it changes everything within your life, if anything, and everyone else's that you're trying to bring to Judaism. Do you know what I mean?
No, explain.
Like, I'll explain. You just told me you're not 100% about if Jesus existed or not, if he walks the earth. So if you're
not
not
100% that Moses existed either, by the way.
No, that's understandable, but we're all human. We're all learning. We're all trying to educate ourselves from one another. Do you know what I mean? And there is so many books out there that the history behind it all, if you were to really dig in and work out if Jesus existed, if he really walked the earth, if there was such thing as a Jesus Christ, then you will come across a lot of things, just like you're doing now. You've come across a lot of things, and you're a rabbi, and you've done your history, you've done your research, you've read the books. I'm hoping you have anyway, considering that you're a rabbi. What makes you, why do you call yourself a rabbi?
Because I have the ordination.
Ordination. Can you elaborate?
He doesn't call himself rabbi. Rabbi is a title that you earn by getting education. The other people call him rabbi.
Okay. Is that because you're a teacher within Judaism?
Not necessarily. Right. I mean, rabbi is also a descriptive term, but nowadays it means that you have some sort of ordination. That means another rabbi made you a rabbi. But yes, rabbi does mean teacher. So technically, Muhammad was a rabbi too.
Okay, so would you call yourself a teacher then? Or did that just get handed to you?
No,
that's what I'm asking you.
I mean, I don't call myself.
I'm not trying to catch you out with anything. I just need answers before I ask a question. Do you know what I mean?
It sounds like you're gonna ask me like if I ever tried sugar or PCP. It's non sequiturs.
All right, let me give you a blunt enough question to what I'm asking you. Is you said to me that a rabbi gave you that title, correct?
Right. Well, two.
Okay.
Actually, three rabbis. But yeah, go ahead.
Being given that title, you should know more or less your book inside out. If not, you should know where every single scripture is without even knowing to it. Do you know what I mean?
No. I don't know. What you mean, like memorize the whole Torah?
No, I'm not saying revised. I'm saying you should know. Like, if I said to you, right, okay, take me to 1 Kings 20, would you know exactly where in the Bible that is going to be?
Will I know what verse appears in that section? What it says? No.
No, I'm not asking that. I'm asking if you held your Bible in your hand right now, would you know where to go directly to that?
Man, come on, man. I mean,
No. I'm just asking a question, bro. I'm not putting you on the spot. I'm sorry if you feel that I have. I just wanted to ask a question, man. Because if you can't tell me this, all right, let's go to another one. Numbers 29.
I'm a fake rabbi. I'm a fake rabbi.
No, I don't want to call you that. No, brother. Let's not call you that. No, brother. Listen. Brother, listen, I'm going to tell you now, I'm an evangelist, but if you told me where is this in the Bible and read it to me, I'm going to search it in my Bible. I'm not going to know exactly where it is. That's what I'm trying to get at. We're all learning. We're all trying to knowledgeable ourselves with other people as well as books. So my question to you, you said to me earlier, you don't know 100% if Jesus existed. He didn't walk the earth. If there was a Jesus, okay? What I'm saying to you is, as a rabbi, as a human to a human, person to a person, brother to brother, whatever you want to call it, do your research about it, man. Because it is such beautiful stories within that. I'm not converting you. I'm just saying you're putting Judaism is better. And you can become Jewish with Rabbi Asher Meza. So
Hey,
1 minute.
Syke.
Can I finish?
Syke, sorry, 1 second. You've been talking forever.
No, just
You've been
one more.
talking forever, dude. You've been talking forever. Look, you don't have understanding of what rabbi means. No, but like he thinks that rabbi means that you memorize the entire Bible. Like you have to know Bible by heart, or you're not rabbi.
He didn't believe that. Okay. The rule for a lot of these guys is just keep talking as much as you can, and you will look smart because you're. But he's gonna say, I went on Rabbi Asher Meza's show, and I left him speechless. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, I could be speechless because I think he's kind of full of hot air, but I'm patient. I let people talk, but you have to get to the point, right? I mean, the average person will not tolerate me, singing a song or saying Kaddish before I get to my point. Okay, there's no point. Yeah. I guess what he doesn't know, and okay, hold on.
He doesn't even know what rabbi means. He thinks that it means that somebody who knows the Torah. The rabbi is a lawyer. Like you have to know the law. That's the job of a rabbi, is to be a lawyer, basically.
I wasn't born Jewish, people. Okay, I converted to Judaism 25 years ago. I went to seminary as a Christian for over 3 years, and I was ordained as a pastor. I know the New Testament in and out. I don't quote the New Testament, all right, because I have my hands full. I mean, studying Talmudic writings and halakha and stuff like that, right? I have my hands full, but I know the New Testament, and I know the Old Testament, and I know halakha. Okay, so, and for people who think that all I have to do is read the New Testament and I'll come to believe in Jesus, it sounds like the Mormon argument that they say read the Book of Mormon and you will get a burning in your bosom, and that shows. I don't want to worship a God who in some way communicates to his people by making their chest warm. It just sounds creepy and whatever. I want God. I want to connect to God intellectually, ethically, and intellectually. That's it, right? And I know there's a lot of dumb people who come to God anyways, right? Those aren't the people I roll with, and that's not my audience. My audience are typically intelligent people who know the difference between Christianity and Judaism and just want to be polished up a little. And that's what I do. Okay? Coño, that's it. Next.
Hey, Rabbi, how are you?
Hi.
So one thing that I like about you is if someone asks a question, you try and answer to the best of your ability. And it's nice to come in. I mean, I'm a Christian, but you don't come and bash at me when I ask a question. So I want to say thank you for that.
I like Christians, by the way. If a Jewish person, someone who had a Jewish mother, is adamant that they don't want to practice Judaism, I would encourage them to consider becoming Christian. Okay? That's how much I appreciate ethical Christianity. Yeah, go ahead.
Right. So my question is, when it comes to the books of wisdom of Proverbs, so now I could be wrong, but it seems like the wisdom has a sense of morality to it. So like true wisdom has to have a moral component to be classified as wisdom.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah. I like this statement. I like what I hear. Yeah.
Yeah, that just it kind of blew me away, because today's society, if you can swindle someone, you're quote unquote wise. But the Bible says no, or the Torah says no, you need to go ahead and do it the right way. And it was encouraging.
Yeah, so it's good ideas versus bad ideas, right? And we're here as proponents of good ideas.
Absolutely awesome. So I want to say thank you,
Oh, no
and
problem. All right,
just
so vote Republican. Why not?
I'm not gonna go ahead and disagree with you on that.
That's it. That's if your religiosity doesn't in some way seep into your political life, you're wasting your life as a religious person, and you should take your Torah and throw it away. That's it.
Right. So thank you for your time. I appreciate you.
Okay, likewise. Oh boy, Mr. Maccabee, welcome.
You're our
welcome.
favorite guy.
Okay. Well, let's keep it concise. All right.
Shalom. Absolutely. I mean, I'm gonna stick to the same subject of conversion.
All right. Go ahead.
Same subject. I mean, I'm gonna stick to the same topic that you and I always talk about. See, and I have never went against the conversion because I understand the history. But I want to ask you today.
Yeah.
That's right. I'm going to ask you today. If there's a converted population of people, where are the originals? That's my question to you. And I'll get off and listen because I don't really have a rebut for you. I like talking to you. I just want to make sure that we have that you and I have an understanding. That's all. I've never spoke anything about. I understand the conversion from the Greeks to the Romans to even right. Coming back from Babylon. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So you're
and I have nothing against those groups.
No problem. All right. So I could take you off and answer your question with you off the air.
Now my question is,
no, I know
where's the original set? Okay. And then I'll get off and listen. I mean, I thought you didn't understand what my question was, but I'll listen.
Thank you. All right.
It's very simple. When a converted person marries non-converted person, what happens? You gotta mix, right? And then another converts, and it keeps mixing. There is no separate, hidden, secret, original somewhere away from everybody else. It's all one big mix.
You know, blacks in America have the one drop rule, right? I mean, it's called one drop, but that if you have one drop of black blood in you, you're black, right?
I don't know. I'm not black, so I don't know the rules.
Yeah, no, that's a statement. This is why Obama is considered black, even though he's half white. But for some reason, they think that when it comes to Judaism, unless you're a pure descendant of Abraham, then you're not Jewish at all. And I never argue from that perspective because I don't think that blood matters. Where are the original Jews? I think he wants him to say that they're blacks living in any major city in America. I'm not going to say that. Where are the original Jews? I think we are the original Jews.
Yeah, because we mixed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Jewish people were never limited to blood. Even in the Haggadah, I mean, for those who don't know what we're talking about, in the Haggadah, in the Jewish book that we read during Passover, we tell the wicked son that if you were in Egypt, you would not have been redeemed. What does that mean? What does that mean? It means that only because you happen to have a Jewish pedigree doesn't mean that you're special.
Correct.
If you don't
it's not about blood, it's about what you do.
Hi, hello.
Hi.
So my question is,
to say one thing. Black people in America don't have a one-drop rule. That rule was imposed on us by white supremacists. We did not make up that rule. The way you guys just said that was that black people made up that rule. That rule was created by white men
you embrace that rule, right?
On us.
Okay, so most blacks embrace that rule, whether you invented it or not. Okay, if I said you invented it, well, then I apologize. Okay, but by the simple fact that if someone has some black or one black parent, they're considered black and not half white, right?
That is not true. You
can
colloquially,
be
both
for sure.
Biracial and black. You can be both
Obama's
biracial
not a black
and black. I have 2 biracial black kids. You can be both. And
I
if a
know that you can do
person,
both.
if a person has a black ancestor, then they just have a black ancestor. The reason why we don't say some people are black is because that is a danger and erasure to our community. It has political. Being black is a political thing because white people made it political. That's not something that we invented, and that's something that, and it's illegal. When Loving versus Virginia,
I want to
Loving
talk about
versus
this. I don't want to,
Virginia.
no, come on.
No, go
Let's
read
stay off this
Loving
topic.
versus.
Okay. I mean,
But the same thing applies in Judaism, basically, right? 1% or 55%, it doesn't matter. Once you converted, you're Jewish, whether you have any drop of blood or no blood at all, it doesn't matter. What matters is what you do.
yeah, and I'm not in any way trying to be racist or anything like that, but colloquially, that's how it's understood. I know that if someone has a white parent, like one white parent and one black parent, that person is not specifically black, but that is how the black community views it colloquially, whether she agrees with it or not. Right? That's how the media rules. I mean, Obama was considered America's first black president, not first biracial president. Okay, I agree with her. Right, but we're talking about macro level. This is a macro show. We don't deal with what I personally believe. I try to teach you what Judaism teaches, and then I'll tell you my personal opinion on the issue. So someone says, do we keep Shabbat? We have probably 20
half an hour
minutes.
left or so.
Yeah. I mean, it's not Shabbat yet. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay. My question is why should I convert to Judaism?
What religion do you currently belong to?
I'm Muslim.
Okay. Were you born Muslim or you converted to
No,
Islam?
I was born Muslim, alhamdulillah. And I know and my religion teach me, I think it's in the Quran, yeah.
Okay.
You don't have to keep the Sabbath, it's for only Jews. All that you guys do is only for like you guys. So why would we come to your religion when it's only for you guys?
Oh, so that's a misconception. But Judaism was universal at its outset. That means it was available for everyone who wanted to become part of Israel to join, i.e., anyone who wanted to keep God's initial covenant, his commandments, was able to, which means that we didn't need Islam to claim to be universal. But why is Judaism better than Islam? Well, it depends how you define better. If you define better as ethics, what makes the world physically better, right? Individual moral training, people behaving in a certain way, we have to ask what really made Islam ethical? What made Christianity ethical? Because there aren't many laws that appeared in Christianity and Islam that didn't first appear in Judaism. The average Muslim knows what the Torah says and they know what Christianity says. The average Christian knows what the Torah says, right? Because that's their well of ethics. Jesus was considered ethical because he kept Torah laws. Muhammad was considered ethical because he knew the ethical behavior performed by Jesus and all the biblical heroes that appear in our Bible, i.e., Torah keepers. So,
Muhammad didn't know anything about the Torah or the prophet. It was just revealed to him. He didn't know anything about all the Jewish prophets.
So what was revealed to him wasn't anything new. It was ideas that were appropriated from Christianity and Judaism. Whether you believe they were perfected or they were clear, whatever. It first appeared in the New Testament and what Christians call the Old Testament. Right? So wouldn't it be better if someone who was looking for a belief system as an ethical outlet to go with the source that has all the laws instead of a copycat like Christianity and Islam?
Yeah. But what about the people that are born Muslims who are not like revered, who didn't convert it?
Well, they could convert to Islam. You see, look, I'm willing to convert to Islam. I'm willing to convert to any belief system that I think makes me a better person. The problem is if, for example, I was looking for a belief system and I didn't know that Judaism accepts converts, which is what most Muslims teach, I'd be forced to become a Muslim or some other belief system. But right when I heard that the ethical foundation of Islam and Christianity accepts converts, you better believe I'm going to drop Islam and Christianity and go with the source, because typically in the vast majority of cases, things that are older, right, that claim to be the parents of what's newer are typically truer, meaning that if Judaism ceases to exist, there is no Islam and Christianity. However, Islam could cease to exist and you still have Christianity and Judaism. Christianity could cease to exist you would no longer have Islam. You would only have Judaism. So it seems
But
from a
Islam,
reasonable perspective, Judaism is better. I'm not saying it's the only option, but it's look, in life the choice is not between what's horrific and what's utopian, but typically between what's good and what's better. I think Islam is good, and I think Christianity is good. I just think that Judaism is better. That's
yeah,
it.
that's a good. You have like free to say that. I mean, everybody have their opinion, but all I'm saying is Islam doesn't need Christianity or Judaism to exist. And Christianity, they need the Old Testament. We don't need any. We don't need the Bible. We don't need Old or New Testament. We just have Quran. We just need we don't need
Yeah, but you believe that in faith. I mean, you believe that this book was in some way like given to Muhammad with all these ideas that appeared in the Christian Bible and the Jewish Bible. And for some reason, that book still would have reached Muhammad, even though there wasn't a Christianity or Judaism. That's a creed. I mean, you believe that in faith, right? We know that whoever wrote that book was familiar with who Moses was, who David was, who Jesus was, right? That means they must have read, those books.
God was familiar of the prophets. Yeah, I agree with you. Whoever wrote it, whoever the author of the Quran is, he knew the prophet of the Yahud people.
Well, you know what's, I think one telling fact here is that there were hundreds and thousands of prophets in the Jewish world. The only prophets we have now are the ones. There were hundreds and thousands of prophets in the Jewish world. The only prophets we have now. Okay. Again, there were hundreds of thousands of prophets in the Jewish world. The prophets we have now are only the ones that the rabbis decided to write down. If the Quran was truly had insight that no other source had, why didn't it mention any other prophets that the judges themselves didn't write about? Why did it limit itself to only the characters that appear in the Jewish Bible? If it had no influence from anyone else from God, you're telling me that God is limited in terms of who existed throughout history. He was limited to what the rabbis decided was sanctioned for the Jewish people to study.
Yeah, there are prophets that are mentioned in the Quran which are not mentioned in the Bible. For instance, Prophet Hud. Are you familiar? See, you weren't able to verify because this is the first time you're hearing. Prophet Saleh. He's mentioned in the Quran. He's not mentioned in the Bible. And there are other.
Hold on. Okay, these are prophets that lived in Israel. You mean?
No, they didn't live in Israel.
Oh, you mean Arab prophets?
Yeah. So
that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about biblical. Prophets that lived in the time of the Babylonian exile. Why would a person from Israel know anything about individuals who lived in Saudi Arabia? Okay.
No, because initially you said, why doesn't the Quran contain prophets other than what's mentioned in the Bible? So I was just giving you. Okay. So now here's my question.
Wait. I have to correct you. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. I said that when quoting Jewish history, why does it only quote the individuals that the rabbis chose to name books after when there were hundreds of thousands of prophets? Okay.
Because these are the prophets you are familiar with. Because these are the ones that you can verify. The other ones you can't verify. So there would be no point giving the names of hundreds of other prophets that you don't have historical records of.
So my point was that, that individual said that we don't even need to verify because Islam could exist without Christianity and Judaism. So then what's the point of verifying?
No, because the Islamic claim is God is the one who is issuing the revelation to all the other previous prophets and messengers, including Moses. So that's why there's some overlap, so that's the claim. So Islam is not Prophet Muhammad is not making a unique claim to himself. He's saying, before me, there were thousands of prophets, 124,000 prophets and messengers came to this planet from the time of Adam. In fact, Adam being the first one. God kept giving his revelation and guidance to humanity, so humanity is not lost. Okay, having said that, now you're big. Here's the question that I want to ask you, Rabbi, today is that give me some of your. Huh? Say again. Give me some of your high points of your morality, high points of your morality that you feel is there in Judaism, but it's not there in Islam. So something unique that you're inviting towards.
Well, then I didn't say that. I said that Islam appropriated the ethics that appear in the Torah.
I believe.
Well, I mean, with the idea of justice, not favoring the poor, and justice, loving your neighbor as yourself, even rabbinic laws or rabbinic statements, it says that he who saves a life is like he saved the whole world. This is something that a rabbi says in the Talmud, and the Quran miraculously said that God said it.
No.
I'm not saying that Islam is bad.
That's not
I'm just saying that Judaism is better.
Yeah,
See,
that's
I mean,
not
you're
what the
getting
Quran is.
defensive.
Yeah, sorry, Rabbi. Just make.
Yeah,
That's not what the Quran is saying. The Quran is saying we revealed to the children of Israel, to save a life
I'm
like
not doing
saving
it.
the
That's
whole of humanity. But that is saying, and the moral law applies to others as well. It's not, here's my point. Look, regarding justice, this is what the Quran is saying. You won't find that in the Torah. Okay, it says, "O mankind, stand up for justice as witnesses to God. Do justice, even if it goes against yourself, your parents, your kinsmen, and the things that you love. Stand up for justice, and those who you dislike, and you have where you have a conflict of interest, stand up for justice as well." This statement has been put on the the library of Harvard Law School. It's been put. It is the greatest statement ever made in the history of mankind regarding justice. The Quranic statement, by the way. Go ahead.
Come on, you have to let me talk.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So the Torah, about 2,000 years before that, made the famous statement, "Tzedek tzedek tirdof," justice, justice you shall pursue. And the book of Leviticus is with the idea that you think that Torah doesn't talk about justice, it means that you don't really know about Torah. I'm not saying that the Quran is bad.
No, justice to the Gentiles or justice to the Jews among themselves. Not to the Gentiles. Not to
really quick. You know what it says on the Liberty Bell in the United States? Do you know what it says on the Liberty Bell in the United States?
Go ahead.
It's the statement from Leviticus. It says, "And you shall proclaim the liberty across the world."
Okay, but at the same time, they had slavery as well. Yeah, saying that.
No, they did not. You know what? All due respect, I don't go to Muslims and try to teach them Islam. Don't come to Jews and teach us Torah, okay? I have full respect for Muslims, and you guys should keep your law and stay to that. But that's disrespectful to tell us that the Torah says something. Okay?
No, you're missing the point. We are communicating, we are learning, sharing from each other. You don't have to put your 2 cents in. It doesn't make sense. You're too narrow-minded. Hey, Rabbi, going back to you.
All right.
Yeah, the point is, Rabbi, what I'm saying is
hold on. Here, look, we have to be able to put stakes in the ground. Okay, so are you convinced that the Torah did talk about justice? Because you keep moving the goalpost.
Yeah, but not universal justice. Yeah,
it is universal. Wait, hold on.
So if you can take money on interest from Gentile, how can that be universal justice?
Okay.
Yeah,
justice wouldn't be called justice if it was only applied to certain groups of people. Justice means fairness, essentially. It wouldn't be fair to be allowed to mistreat people and that's not fair. Okay, Muslims also take interest. What you call interest, ribis, right?
Riba.
Wait. Yeah. Well, no, in Hebrew we say ribis or ribit. Okay. It depends if you're Ashkenazi or Sephardi. Okay, is really price gouging, because if you went to an Islamic country and tried to buy a Bugatti, they for sure would charge you interest on it. So,
what I'm saying, the Quranic edicts, Muslims can do whatever. They can be doing forbidden things, but the Quran says is forbidden. Okay, in fact, the Quran says Allah and His Messenger declare war against those who take usury or take interest or do interest-based transactions. That's there in the Quran because it's not just. Because if you say no, it's central bankers printing money out of thin air and getting the world under debt, so that's fair and that's justice. That's not justice. That's exploitation, and that's in fact
I get it.
Yeah.
If you're going to make the claim that you're one of the few Muslims who understand it like that, I mean, I respect that. But the vast majority of Muslims understand that there's a distinction between charging interest and price gouging, which is the actual prohibition that Jews are also prohibited from doing. There's no command that Jews must charge interest to Gentiles, by the way. Okay, we just separate the world between people who keep Torah and people who don't keep Torah. We welcome, especially me, I welcome you and every Gentile to consider becoming Jewish. So it's not a racial thing. But it's easy for Islam to in some way be more inclusive when Judaism did the hard work of civilizing this planet. when the Torah came out, they were Torah keepers and then they were barbarians. So clearly, back then, if you were an idolater, by definition, you were unethical. The idea that we should be equipping our enemies by not charging them interest is ridiculous. As a matter of fact, Muslims make a distinction between the people of the book and true unethical idolaters. But there aren't too many of those left. So it's easy to say we're more inclusive, 2,000 years later, right? But I don't think that makes Islam any more.
What moral splash did Judaism cause in the history? They were a minority group. If you take the Roman Empire and the Persian empires and the empires of the past, what dent did they cause? Nothing, very little. Later on, Christianity actually made Judaism known. Otherwise, Judaism was a small group surviving, under the tutelage and under the protection of empires, like they're doing under. Yeah.
Back and forth, man.
Yeah.
You make a point and then let me respond.
But last point, I have to go.
No. I mean, you can't make like 5 points at a time.
Okay.
By the simple fact that there would be no Islam or Christianity without Judaism, that explains the ethical impact or the impact Judaism had on this planet. Just by that simple fact.
No, that's a mantra you're saying, but Islam does not take anything from Judaism. Islam is studied independently.
You would be worshiping the moon if it wasn't for Judaism.
These arguments are by Christian fundamentalists. They have been refuted long ago. Moon, God, and this and that. Islam is very much universal and monotheistic and very moral, universally moral.
I'm not saying Muslims. No. I didn't say that Islam is not moral.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that if there wasn't Islam, you would be practicing some pagan religion and most likely worshiping the stars, moons, and
in modern
celestial bodies.
At best, we will be secular or even atheist or naturalist. Not necessarily will be pagan.
The secular movement is quite new. Okay, go back over 150 years, and everyone had some sort of belief system, no matter how primitive that belief system was. You'd be like worshiping the dust on people's feet. I'm not saying I believe Islam is ethical.
You have pantheist traditions far going before Judaism. You had rationalist and atheist, a naturalist way before Judaism, or sometimes even simultaneously, among the Greeks.
And atheists, by the way.
Yeah. So, anyways, but we do share one common God and moral principle. Objective morality is across the board. You cannot sort of like privatize it and say hog it up and say, hey, this belongs to the Jews. It's universal because this is given by God, by a universal God infused morality in human consciousness of objective nature. That's why we recognize what is wrong, what is right is right. Regardless of our social ideology and the stuff. Yeah.
And people who have not adopted Islam, Christianity, or Judaism are void of that morality. So the idea that only because God gave a universal standard of morality that Aboriginals in I don't know, on Sentinel Island in some way are ethical because God said it. If God said it and no one heard it via either a Jew, Christian, or a Muslim, it's like it didn't occur.
But last point, then I have to go. My fast is about to open up in 2 minutes. Look. You see, the idea of morality is inherent in human nature. When a revelation comes, it only reinforces what is true, what you recognize to be true. What you recognize something morally true is in any human being would recognize that because God put that in human nature. Revelation only comes to reinforce that. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Rabbi. I gotta go. Go ahead, but I'm listening. Take care.
Shukriya. Okay. Ramadan Kareem. Kada Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz. Thank you, Rabbi. Take care. Bye-bye. Okay, but I'm listening while I'm opening your fast. Go ahead.
Okay. No. I mean, I'm glad that I was able to offer you a platform to give over your monologue.
Thank you.
All right. I mean, we have to bring some joy out of this. If not, who said that religious people are all boring? All right, fine. They're not all patient, and that I'm extremely patient. I could take it. Because I'm not personally offended, but I think they know that I don't dislike Islam, and I don't dislike ethical Islam, and I don't dislike ethical Christianity.
I think Islam, by definition, is ethical. There's always going to be bad apples in every religion, right? But that we can't.
There's some crappy things out there also.
That's what I mean. Like, it's every religion you're going to have crazy people, but But if you look at the actual religion and majority of people, that's a different story.
Yeah. I mean, so someone's saying if I'm going to show right now. I mean, I am actually. Yeah, but I go to a Chabad, so I mean, they always start late, anyways. So it doesn't matter.
I'm staying at home because I'm sick, so I'm just doing Shabbat from bed.
Yeah. I don't know. Whatever. Anyways, I mean, we should end now. Just before people start calling us like Mahal Shabbos. All right,
I got
guys.
another 20 minutes.
I'm gonna try to be on. I'm gonna try to be on after Shabbos, Motzei Shabbos. So I don't know. I mean, I'm in South Florida, so just figure 30 minutes after my Shabbat ends, we'll do another 2 hours and follow the host. Follow this guy right here, and know that you could convert to Judaism and consider it. And I encourage everyone tomorrow, 9:45, go to your local synagogue. Okay, I've already given them your name. Just say that Rabbi Asher sent me.
Hold on.
Hi.
Before
what?
you go, hold on.
Yeah.
This seems like a stupid question, but the cows have souls.
I don't know. I mean, according to the Torah, like from a Christian perspective, it gives you a glimpse of the Christian understanding of an afterlife, because it says, I mean, it talks about animals being in the kingdom of God in the book of Revelation. So from a Christian perspective, I think you could come to that conclusion. The Torah is not explicit that there's a metaphysical component to humans. I mean, it's just not explicit. I mean, it talks about God breathing life into someone, but the notion of a soul, as it's understood in Christianity, Islam, and Rabbinic Judaism, doesn't literally appear in the Torah like that. The word neshama, or nefesh, doesn't really mean soul. It means your whole being, including the physical parts. I understand that the notion, it sounds more like of a Greek notion that that something continues to exist after you die, right? There's hints to that in the Bible, but it's just not explicit. So, I mean, do cows have souls? I don't know. I mean, I could tell you what rabbis say. They'll say, yeah. And if you die, not keeping the commandments, you could come back as a cow, right? No, they believe in reincarnation. So they do believe that everything has a soul, but they believe that you could come back as an inanimate object, like a rock. So I try to give over information regarding metaphysical topics only as it appears in the 5 books of Moses. Regarding halakha, what you do, I mean, I'll tell you what the rabbis teach, but the rabbis don't have the authority to teach on the metaphysical. All they could do is give you opinions. So I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah,
that was
sorry.
it, really.
Yeah. It does say in the book of Jeremiah, like in Jeremiah, it says that those who kiss calves kill children. So I think that's talking about like the whole PETA movement, with the people who are too infatuated. Like the mustache man was an adamant connoisseur of German shepherds, and he had no issue like unaliving tons of people. I mean, I'm surprised that TikTok hasn't in some way picked up the word unalive already as a red flag to, I mean, everyone's using it already. Like we need like a new word, like, I don't know, potato salad. Anyways, fine. All right, guys. But someone says it's already Shabbat in Florida. So, I mean, Shabbat was at 7:26, but
7:56 today.
Yeah. So people always have 18 minutes from candle lighting to when Shabbat really is. And even that, you really have like maybe...
No, but candle lighting is 7:56 today.
In New York, not in Florida.
Oh, why? You guys get sundown earlier?
I mean, I'll tell you.
Because for me in Michigan, it's 7:56 candle lighting.
Do you see that? No. Yeah, it's 7:25 here.
Oh, wow. So you guys get sundown earlier in Florida than in Michigan. Interesting.
Maybe. I don't know. Fine.
All right then, Rabbi. Shabbat Shalom.
All right. And I want to apologize to Tamira. I mean, no harsh feelings, all right? I mean, whatever. I'll make it up to you somehow. All right, guys. Take it easy.